You got your own little jam going. Casual Friday, guys. Casual.
Wow.
What is up? I'm wearing the same clothes I always wear. What's up, everybody? Welcome into the final predictions lounge.
Let's go. Let's go.
Oh, you guys have had a week to prepare. Have we had a week off in season other than the All-Star break over the last 3 years? Because I feel like every time you go from over these last ones, it's been so jumbled.
2 years ago, we had like 4 months off, but that's about it.
since the start of the pandemic. Because in the bubble, it was like you went right from one thing to the next, no break, no whatever. And then even these last years, it's been condensed. This idea of like we haven't seen Jokic play for 10 days. It's weird. Feels like an offseason.
I never want to have to go through that again.
Well, you're going to have to. As soon as this season winds down, there will be months off. We're going to have a regular offseason, and it's going to feel like so long. I'm not looking forward to it. We're presented, as always, by DraftKings Sportsbook, floating right there above Brendan Vogt's head. You can download that app if you haven't. For some reason you haven't already, download it. Use promo code DNVR and bet along with us when we make money throughout this playoff run. I've got a man who has made green his color. It's Brendan Vogt.
Tomorrow, that week actually flew by for me. I don't know about you guys, but I'm stoked. I can't believe it's tomorrow already. We meet our makers together.
Yeah.
Do you hear that? I can't believe it's tomorrow already. You can't believe the game is tomorrow.
Correct.
Is the it's in that one? Yeah, because it's like not tomorrow. It's today.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for breaking that one down.
Over here, I've got D-Line. You guys know him as Eric.
Did we have a break?
Did we?
I've literally never been busy. So
There, yeah. Yeah, not really. Over here, the man with the wind behind his hat. It's Harrison Wind.
Let's preview this series again.
let's go.
This is the final preview. I will say, since we last spoke, actually, we didn't do a show yesterday. Nuggets held practice at 2:30, so we didn't have a show yesterday. And then I had the George Karl show, so we actually haven't talked about the series since Tuesday. And in that time, guess what, boys? I have gotten to get deep into the film.
Oh.
Deep into the film. And it's been fun. Like, honestly, I missed this part. My favorite part of the job one of my favorite parts of the job is honestly getting into the film and really breaking it down. And I feel like I have a better sense. I was joking about this with my buddy Sam Esfandiari yesterday. I've scouted all the film. It's really going to come down to Nico Mannion and Mulder. Because these are like the Nuggets and Warriors haven't played with full squads.
I know.
Like, I don't know. We have to see if Facu can shut down Mannion.
Well, not in game one. Facu's suspended for game
That's
one.
right.
That's something
right.
we haven't talked about on the podcast.
Well, we will talk about it here coming up, though, because actually it's one of my notes here.
Wow.
Facu actually did provide a little bit of important depth when you take away Davon Reed. So we'll get into that. So we're going to preview it in segments 2 and 3. Going to get more into some of the specifics about this, and then, of course, give our official predictions. I will tell people I've read the comments. People have not been happy with our pessimism. I'm telling you guys, I am slightly more optimistic than I was before. So
I've had no chance to weigh in. This is your pessimism.
you haven't been pessimistic yet?
Not about this series.
No, we can't wait to hear your own pessimism.
It's gonna be bad.
I want to start though with this big question. This is kind of a fun one when I think about it. What are the stakes for this series for the Nuggets? What are the stakes? Like, what is there to be gained or to be lost specifically from this Nuggets Warriors vote? I'm going to throw it over to you. For the team. We'll just do it kind of as a team first.
You know, one thing, I stress the importance of the way they did just enough to hold on to the rope this year, because I do believe in organizational momentum. And I think they've found a way to at least survive these periods where they haven't been able to push forward because of injuries. They haven't necessarily lost anything. And I think by advancing out of round one, you can certainly inspire a lot of confidence into the base that anything is possible, not just with Jokic on the floor, but especially as these guys come back. But there is a risk right now of things looking so bad that you just feel the weight of how badly do they need to shake this up for getting back to that starting five. Does there need to be, like, are there major changes on the way? And then, you know, the Jokic discourse of it will start as it should. But that one, which would matter more for us than Jokic, but you know, is he cut out for this? Can he win a title? All of that, we know the discourse.
Steph Curry and Draymond, I know everybody saw on Draymond's podcast, they were talking about, you know, the 2016. I think they asked, would you trade 17 and 18 if you could have that 16 season back and win it? So you have the 73 wins plus the title. And Curry's perspective on it was so great. He's like, no, I don't really want to change anything. And he's like, to be honest, if I like fretted over this stuff, it'd probably drive you crazy. Like, I just don't care about it. And I believe Curry, by the way, in this. Like, he rises above the low moments. And I think Yoke's the same way, where it's like, man, what if everybody says I'm a 2-time MVP and I'm a failure? And he'd be like, I just won't hear it, so I don't care. They can say whatever they want. How do you, D-Line, set the stakes for me? What's at stake for the Nuggets in this series?
Definitely that. The narrative is at stake. I think it was a pretty good answer, Vogt. Like there's a good chance for
I was shocked as
overreaction
well.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting
from local media, from local people who don't pay attention to the Nuggets and only pop their head up long enough to complain about them when times seem rough.
Yeah.
So we're going to hear a lot about like wasting the 2 best years of Jokic's career. We're going to get, if it goes poorly, which I don't think it will, but if it does go poorly, the Nick Wrights of the world are going to feel, they're
going to feast.
They're going to feast.
They won't feast on Jokic's 2 MVPs, but they will feast on the
No, they
last.
will feast on somehow. You know what I did? By the way, I looked at all of the votes so far. Any vote that has been gone to Joel Embiid is from somebody on TV. Consider that. Consider that.
Yeah.
Why? They all can argue about it, make it like a big deal.
Oh, you think so? I like
Yes.
that theory, because when you said why as if it was intuitive, I wasn't sure what the answer was.
Because they spend all their time being like,
Yeah.
well, it
Detective
could be
D-line.
Embiid, like whatever. And then everybody else like sits and is thoughtful about basketball.
So-
They're like, yeah, but it's Jokic. Anyway,
But and something serious about this, because I've sit with like radio people, at the Nuggets games. There'll be radio people, and it's funny, like one of the comments I've heard is like, here's how I would handle this game. Like, what's the
Right.
storyline? I would take this side, and I would have my co-host take that side. And you're like,
Jesus.
you wouldn't just talk about what you think?
I know. Like that's such
frame
a
it?
foreign concept.
It is
just
such
to
a foreign-
talk about the game.
Like to have to be like, no, Harrison is pro Nuggets, and I'm going to be anti. And
the only
Like,
way
what?
that we can relate to that is when Judge D-Line makes an
Right. That's the only time we've.
Who's
to
right?
argue the
Yeah.
case.
It's the only time we've purposely taken a side.
That's always like a little
But
ridiculous.
yeah, but so like that is definitely
you're right. The TV though, you're
the
right.
T-
That's a
but
good
so that
insight.
is that's at stake, and again, like I believe Tim Connolly is not susceptible to this because I don't think that he solicits Twitter for advice on how to run
That's
his
what
team.
you think.
But I do think that it starts to get loud with the team. Anytime there's any underperformance from a team,
Right.
from people where people think that they should have done better, it gets really loud. People start calling for the head coach. All of this nonsense that you sort of just have to wade through, and it just becomes toxic until hope springs eternal, and those two players come back.
Both of you guys, great ansers, by the way. We're off to a great start on this
Great
show.
job,
Very
guys.
excited. Very Harrison, a lot
Thanks,
of
Harrison.
pressure. You can
Yeah.
start to think about your answer here. But one of the things that I think about a lot is, from my perspective, where I'm so thick in the weeds with the Nuggets, last year they beat Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum in the playoffs. So I was like, what a success. But then they got swept by the Suns, and everyone's like, got swept?
Yeah.
And you're like, no, they won.
Yeah.
They won the series.
They won with Facu Campasso and Austin Rivers.
And you're right in that the series has been like they hit their over. Like everything bad happened to them. They just somehow kept fighting. And yeah, if they lose in bad fashion in this round, it'll be like they lost. And it's like it just all gets deleted. And
Yeah.
God, it's so true. That we are at the precipice of a narrative free fall.
The good news is it's mostly narrative, and like
Yeah.
these guys are under contract and
Yeah.
all of that, so it's not like Denver's necessarily at the precipice of a complete and total like meltdown with regards to the roster, but it will feel that way. Those conversations will pick up.
And these things aren't done in earnest to the point you're making about television and about Nick Wright in particular. Like, do I think Nick Wright thinks Jokic is overrated? Absolutely. I'm sure that's his real take. The thing is, he knows that he doesn't have to argue in good faith on this. Like, it's the same thing with Skip Bayless. You're always going to be right eventually. Unless a player just wins every year, sometimes you're going to get to be able to take a victory lap.
It's like me with Jason Tatum. Like they won't win the title this year, and I'll get on here as
Oh,
if he's been
for
bad
sure.
the whole year.
Yeah, well, knock on wood with your take there. I mean, I don't know. It's
I know they
possibly
might
good.
win the title. but-
Harrison, what's at stake?
I don't know if there's anything left to say. I mean, externally, you guys are absolutely right. Like, the narrative will be out in full force. But I think internally is obviously what's most important. And just talking about the Nuggets internally, it's not like the Nuggets are going to go try to trade for Julius Randle or somebody if they lose badly in the first. I was just trying to think of somebody on the trade block.
It's like, we got to go Hail Mary time, man. I don't know. Julius
I was just
Randle.
thinking of somebody that's going to
Yeah.
get traded maybe this summer.
Malone would probably love Julius Randle.
No way. No
No?
way he would.
He doesn't
No
play
way he would.
defense.
No, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, that's
So they're not going to like trade Jamal Murray for a guy like that. They're not going to
Wait 2
overhaul.
years and then trade him right when he's back.
They're not going to overhaul the core of this team. And that's what's most important. The outside stuff is not as important. So is there a lot at stake for the Nuggets? A little bit, just because, like Vogt said, you want to keep that momentum going. They've won a first-round series these last 3 years in a row. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, not a lot of teams have done that. I think Milwaukee's the only other team to do that.
Right.
So, like, that's something you can put on your resume and say, yeah, well, we're one of the top-class organizations because we've done X. And that's something they've done. I think that's a great kind of hallmark of this era right now. So that stuff you want to keep going. That stuff is at stake. But internally, I just don't think there's, massive amounts of stuff that's at stake for Denver.
I think there's some things at stake, and obviously the narrative part is a lot of it. Some of this is we feel good about the Nuggets right now, us as analysts. We feel good in large part because they did win a series last year. I mean, if they lost to a terrible Blazers team that then got beat, just dissolved, and now it's this team, we'd be like, man, they lost to that Blazers team last year. Like, this is a bummer. But no, they won it, and you're like, you know what? Even without their second best player, they still have this thing. If you go into this season, you just get steamrolled by Golden State, and especially if Golden State goes on to lose, to somebody else, I think you would look at that and be like, hey, man, it's tough. Like, I think obviously this team is completely different, but you would have a little bit less confidence that their floor is, at a level that you want it to be. So I think there's a little bit of that weird momentum of just do something here that gives you that confidence. But I also think, and maybe this is a healthy thing at stake, I do think the Nuggets have to look at their pieces and say, where are we weak? And if this is a series that Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole completely and utterly dominate, yes, Jamal Murray makes things difficult, but I don't know that you could look at it and say, yeah, he was going to stop all three, and they have the defensive recipe here. So
Totally.
So I do think that there's something at stake here for maybe for a Will Barton and a Bones Highland and some of those guys of like, hey, you need to go out there and give us confidence that maybe you're only one position up too far on the depth chart, not that you're just like not the guy or this or that. So
I totally agree. I mean, that stuff should be obvious right now
Yeah, it should be,
after
should be.
82 games.
But you know what?
But I agree because you don't know what the playoffs are going to look
Right.
like. You don't know what's going to happen. It has to happen before you can make those decisions.
I honestly also don't know if you can would you be completely shocked if Denver was good defensively? I would be shocked if they were great, but they were the 28th best defense over the back half of this season. Back half.
Yeah.
Would you be shocked if they were just good in this series?
Against the Warriors,
Yeah, I would be.
See, I wouldn't. I don't expect it. I'm betting against it. But if the Nuggets came out in their rotations where I'm pointing this or that, I wouldn't be like, they didn't have very many bodies this year. Because they were missing guys to begin with, and then they lost guys along the way, they just didn't. I think part of Jokic's defensive drop-off has just been like, I played 75
for
games
sure.
this year. Like, what do you want me to do? Go chase
Totally.
everybody around the
That's
perimeter?
what you're saying. Like, the defense is almost all effort-based.
Yeah.
And those guys were,
Yeah.
they were worn down. Like, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
If they're good. I would be surprised if they were great, but I would not be surprised if they
a
were
lot of
good.
this is like, the Warriors rely on Steph Curry just causing mayhem by running and running and running and running. I don't know if he's going to be able to do that.
Yeah, I don't know either, but they've got a lot of guys that run. All right, let's go brightest timeline. And here's the other thing, the final thing that's at stake,
Oh.
and it plays into the brightest timeline. We all think Jokic is the MVP. I mean, he's going to win. Half the votes have already been counted. He's dominating. It's a lock, guys. It's over.
No!
It's over. Jokic is going to be a 2-time MVP. Is he the best player in the NBA? I still don't know. Like Kevin Durant, Giannis, there's still some guys that at their best, I'm just saying it's not definitive. This series is a chance for it to become definitive. Like, this could be one of those ones where he has a great matchup in terms of they don't have a big. Now, maybe we're going to talk about the Draymond Jokic matchup later, but this is one where he could go in and average 35, 40 points for an entire series, and people look up and go, how the hell did that Nuggets team beat the Warriors? Like, that's an enormous upset. And you do that, I honestly, no matter what happens the rest of the way, it bumps Jokic up. So this is another thing that's at stake. Jokic can lose some superficial stuff with Nick Wrights of the world or whatever, but he can gain actually a lot and just converting people to be like, never say anything again. He took Facu and Rivers and beat Damian Lillard. Then he took, Barton and Monte and beat Steph Curry. Like, if you do that, it's just you have two big feathers in your cap that can't be taken from you.
Strong agree.
What else is part of this brightest timeline? Jokic dominating is obviously
Well,
phase one of
That's
the
the
brightest
first
timeline.
thing that has to happen for any
His
brightest
best
timeline.
series to date, which you actually should expect, given the fact that he's better than he's ever been.
Right.
The rest thing is important this week, and then how
Yeah.
spaced out the first round
Great point.
is. Not only what did it help Golden State in terms of getting Steph back, assuming the timeline was really as dire as it looked, but also for the Nuggets role players, to the point we were just making, who have been stretched thin all season. So to the question, Aaron Gordon, Will Barton, particularly the latter, looking fresh, looking ready to defend, looking ready to contribute. At their best, they have the first third of the season, they were both great, not good, great. So can this time off allow them to sort of build up, sort of scrape from the bottom of the barrel and show some energy and burst? I hope so. It's the optimist spin, but it's also on the table, I think. It's on the table.
Yeah, I mean, the brightest timeline, it always starts with Jokic, because for Denver to have a chance in this series, he has to be by far the best player on the floor in every game. He just does. He has to be the best version of himself. Like we've seen this regular season in this series for Denver to win. He just does. And then it goes to the role players. Can Monte Morris knock down his threes? Can Will Barton knock down his threes? Can Aaron Gordon hit his corner threes? Because they're going to be wide open.
Right.
Like, you know, the Warriors are going to force the ball out of Nikola Jokic's hands eventually.
Right.
The role players have to knock down shots. They have to make smart decisions. They can't turn the ball over. Austin Rivers has to be a threat. Like, he's going to be a huge part of this series defensively, and he's got to, play within himself offensively. So, after Jokic falls to the role players, if you get great series from most of these role players, yeah, Denver's got a shot.
Yeah. I want to see in the brightest timeline, I want to see Bones Highland.
Yeah.
Make himself a true big game player. Like the way that we've been talking about him, the way he talks about himself. Like, he's come up a little smallish in some big moments down the stretch. But I just love that about him, that it seemingly fuels him. And I just want to see that on the biggest stage of all, and like really start to see like what we've got in this guy.
Yeah.
He's at least confident, if not competent, in every big moment so far this season.
He's going to be like one of the funnest parts for sure, man. And hopefully it's great, and hopefully it's a very successful one as well. All right, the other part for me of the brightest timeline, look, it's called the brightest timeline for a reason. I'm not banking on this. The Nuggets get a good lead in this series, 2-1, 2-0, something like that. Jamal Murray comes back. It propels him like, hey, this playoff. I think part of this is if it starts to become realistic that, hey, Jamal Murray sitting out for 4 games, okay, whatever. But if it's like, hey, we actually going to have a second round series and maybe even a third round, like at that point, maybe it's like, hey, I need to start playing even if it's only 5-10 minutes. So for me, part of this would be the Nuggets not only winning the series and Jokic playing obviously this great and some big performances, but it would also be building towards something. It'd also be the Nuggets playing so well in the series. The Nuggets have had some big wins this year. Like, they've had some moments where you're like, wow, they went into Minnesota and won. They beat the Suns or whatever. It would be starting to look like that version every night, to where you're like, wow, that those crappy wins against the Pacers, those were just a regular season Nuggets. This is a different one, and all of a sudden Murray's coming back, or Porter's, we're getting updates, and it's like, hey, this team maybe can make this season a little bit less of a sunk cost.
Yeah, I agree. And there will be something that starts happening if Denver, wins game 1, or they split these first 2 in Golden State, then win game 3.
Right.
Just the morale within the team,
Yeah.
the coaching staff, the roster, just in that building,
I agree.
is going to be on a level where that's probably going to seep over to Jamal, and he's going to feel that, I
Right.
think.
Right.
Just the vibe, if you split these first 2 games, then come back home, is going to be totally different than the vibe if you come back home 0-2.
Yeah.
And I just think that's huge for a team like this.
No kidding.
Darkest timeline, I just say it. Darkest
Ugh.
timeline is obviously like last year's Sun series,
Yep.
which I think is on the table. It's like a thing that Denver just does. They just can't. There's too many little adjustments that need to be made, and not enough time for them to do it, and it doesn't work out. So
And that's a potential real blow to organizational momentum, whether that's fair or it should be.
2
Or
sweeps. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, back-to-back sweeps, it's going to feel like they have a lot to prove again,
Yeah.
whether or not that's accurate.
Yeah. All right, let's hit our first break. On the other side, though, which player can raise their sort of reputation the most? I think you already hit on one of the guys. And then which one could take the biggest hit? Plus, are we going to hate Warriors fans by the end of this series? The age-old question every time you enter a series.
If you guys haven't been able to watch Nuggets and Avs games and Rapids games, Evoca TV,
Hell
check
yeah.
these guys out. Evoca TV, go to Evoca.tv/DNVR, Evoca.tv/DNVR.
If you're on the fence about this, honestly, guys, this is like, they're such a big partner for us right now.
Huge.
They're becoming an even bigger, like, integrated in everything we do. We have an Avs takeover party bus this week. They sponsored ours. They're going to be doing a lot of cool stuff with us. You know, who knows? Maybe some DNVR stuff coming up lately. So Evoca TV is synonymous with DNVR and will be going forward. So check. Honestly, if you're on the fence about them, I highly implore you to check them out.
Love it. They've got Altitude. They got a bunch of other national channels as well. And like I said, how you get started with them, evoca.tv/DNVR. It's only $25 a month. Use promo code DNVR. You will get $10 off your first 3 months. That's only $15 a month for your first 3 months. That's a great deal. Way cheaper than cable, obviously. No contracts, no hidden fees. So evoca.tv/DNVR. On DraftKings this week, the NBA playoffs mean next level basketball. Get ready for all the action by betting the play-in tournament with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. New customers can bet $5 on any team to win. Get $150 in free bets instantly. You clinch a win no matter what. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code DNVR. Bet $5 on any NBA team to win their games. During the play-in tournament, get $150 in free bets instantly. Promo code DNVR at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
All right, back here, segment 2. Who can raise their reputation? Whose reputation stands the most to gain in this series? You already got a good one?
Will Barton.
You're right. Hey, he's on my list for sure.
If he has a great,
I think he was number 1.
I think if he has a great series, I mean, we talk about the others stepping up, contributing, how it will feel like a Jokic accomplishment in a lot of ways, not just a team accomplishment if they get out of round 1. If a lot of that is because Will Barton played really well and looked just ready for this as a competitor, it will do a lot to change his reputation, I think.
See, I don't know if the only reason he might not be number 1 is just because he's such a smaller piece of the puzzle, but I mean, maybe he is.
First time he's been healthy in the playoffs and ever.
Yeah.
I like what you said about Jokic earlier. Like, if he just comes in and absolutely dominates every single game this series, he's probably the best player in the league. And then, the next series that can change because that's how it happens. But look, if Bones comes in as a rookie and looks himself and lives up to the moment and seizes the opportunity and is, one of Denver's 4 most important players or 5 most important players in this series, I mean, that's going to put him at the forefront of a lot of conversations because people are going to be like, oh, the Nuggets, they've got Nikola Jokic. They got Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. coming back this year. Next year they got Bones Highlands.
Yeah.
So I think him just becoming a guy could totally raise his stock.
What about the fact that he's going up opposite of Steph Curry, Jordan Poole, who a lot of people are now starting to talk about is like Jordan Poole's like elevating himself into the conversation of the next wave of great guards or whatever. But Bones Highland on that stage of like, hey, remember when he went? I'm not saying he needs to go toe-to-toe with Steph Curry, but remember in that series when he was a big swing piece of it?
He had that quarter.
Yeah.
It's also just such a high-profile series. There are games on ABC prime time. Nuggets haven't really been in this position in the playoffs before. Yeah. We've been relegated to NBA TV in the past, but we're on ABC. Like, everybody's going to be watching this series.
I was just laughing about how when Bones Highland went off against the 76ers, everyone's like, all this shows us that Jokic has a better supporting cast. Bones Highland, everyone? Hilarious. Aaron Gordon has a really good opportunity to change the vision of himself from people thinking he's the dunk, the dunk runner-up, the cornrow guy, the kind of goofy,
cornrow. That's how people think of it.
That's what I like. I walk down the street. I'm like, there's an Afro guy, there's a normal Adam hair guy. Anyway, but the point being, like, Aaron Gordon is now in a place where there will be eyes on him. This has not been the case for his entire NBA career. He's been in literal NBA Siberia in Orlando. Then he came to the Denver Nuggets last year, which is not on television. And he played the Warriors on NBA TV during the Lifetime Hour. Like, no one's seen this guy play, truthfully. And to go up against the Warriors, to get switched onto Steph, to like have some high profile defensive plays, and also like some like angry dunks like we've seen. Like Aaron Gordon has a real chance to like to make people think about him as a player as we have in Denver.
It's not really like normal haircut though. It's a pretty good haircut.
I mean, I wanted to say basic, but
Basic? No. With the salt and pepper look to it?
it looks like It looks like
my girl did a good job. She really screwed up the last one. But
when you say girl, you mean like a child, right?
It's the worst.
Someone with a Flowbee.
You know what's funny is I had 4 names on my list. I had Barton, I had Bones, I had Aaron Gordon. And Aaron Gordon, by the way, my X factor. We'll get into that in the the final segment. Jokic too, and for the reason I already went over it, but him too. Like you win the series, it just you kind of shut a lot of people up in a lot of ways. No matter what happens, it's like, hey, you got a couple really big, wins under your belt here. All right, who could take the biggest hit? To me, this list is very short. It's really 1.25.
Nikola Jokic.
Yeah, it's just Jokic.
Heavy is the head that wears the crown.
I mean, if it's all riding on him, this entire series is riding on him. If
Malone too.
He was the second name on my list, but I feel like it's just a little bit.
I mean, there's such a big drop off. I agree, he is on the list, but it's like 1 and then 2.
There's page break in between.
Yeah.
It's really on the second.
Yeah, Nick
page
Wright's
of the list.
not leading whatever stupid show he's on.
Right.
Should Michael Malone be fired? Segment 2. Who is Michael Malone?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean,
Some people would make that take though.
If Yoke plays incredible,
Locally.
his stock rises. If the Nuggets get swept, his stock is going to fall. It's as simple as that.
If Jokic averages 35, 10, and 10, and the Nuggets lose in 4 with none of the games being competitive, it will rest solely on his shoulders, and no number he puts up, no statistical profile will ever mean anything to anyone. And like, not that it's fair, it's just that's the way it works.
Yep.
It's like, hey man, you lose, and that just kind of goes in your record. I will say this too. Like, do you guys care about this? Yoke's never lost in the first round.
I do care about
I
that.
care about it actually quite a bit.
Do you guys
a
care
lot.
about? We don't care. We're
No,
on like the
just-
second year.
well-
We care.
Well, for a while there, I was like, Yoke's never been swept or this, but now I'm like, Yoke, we just guys of my age,
Old
we
folks.
came up on the George Carl, Carmelo Anthony era, and that was every year they lost in the first round, and every year it went 5 or 4 games, and it was just like people don't realize honestly, like the people that look at that did not live the Melo era. And they look back on it like historically or this or that. You don't remember that every single year it was 4 or 5 games and it was done.
It was quick.
It was really by game 3 you were kind of like, God damn it! Like here we are again.
There's nothing worse than arriving at the stadium knowing that your team's going to lose.
Yeah,
you just show up. You're like, oh, this is going to suck.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't believe I have tickets.
Or
to this.
maybe we'll win and force a game 5.
We got to go back to.
So it's something to me. Like if you get out of this one, like it just becomes this thing of like, yeah, man, you're just kind of guaranteed. Like
course.
this would be the ultimate. You could take away his second and third best players, and you're guaranteed to be a top 8 team in the league, which would be the case if that happens.
And we've also talked about how Yoke is one of maybe the biggest just floor raiser in the league. Obviously in the regular season. I mean, case in point this year.
Yep.
Yeah.
They got the 6th seed, and he was really like their only
God, shudder to
A-level
think where that
player.
floor would have been had it not been raised to the 6th seed.
right. But now if they win another first round series against the freaking Warriors, you can say, yeah, he raises your team to this level in the regular season and in the postseason.
And in the postseason, yep, would be great. What?
So, someone in the chat offered swipe a cam as people who have the most to lose.
Oh. That's true. And us.
And us, to be honest,
Dude,
man,
my mentions for sure.
My career,
we could really use this.
Oh man.
I don't know if I assume the Nuggets are watching.
Please.
For us, guys. For us. And for
Bones.
Swipe Up, please. Like we
Bones.
need this. The online community needs this.
So speaking of which, I also remind you guys, where are you watching the game tomorrow? There's no better place on earth, I promise you, than right here at the DNVR Bar. But get here early. I'm saying 3, 4 o'clock. Game's at 6:30. You don't want to wait till 6:30 and expect. Now, here's the thing about tomorrow. It's going to be awesome. You're going to walk in and you're going to be like, there's nowhere to sit. Doesn't matter. By the time tip-off begins, everyone's just going to be standing.
Yep.
It's going to be like
It's a concert.
It's a concert, man. Like just put that in your head, and it's going to be a great time.
Also-
It's going to be like opening day here in terms of staff. We're going to have like buckets of beer and stuff for sale. So
Also, never be shy with people and friends at the DNVR Bar. If you
of
if you see a
course.
table with an empty chair, have a seat. This is the community. Also,
Yes.
pro tip: back of the booths have a wide area that is
Yep.
padded. You can sit on those.
sit on those. Yep, that's why
We
they're
don't
like that. And
they're
also,
designed
if you
for
come in as a 2-top and you're here early and you do get a table, open up the rest of your table like at around 6 o'clock or whatever. Like, hey, people are going to be sitting there, so just Be out for that. It's going to be a great time. One big.
I can't
family.
freaking wait.
I know. It's actually honest. There's a chance.
I'm so excited.
If the Nuggets win tomorrow, I will declare tomorrow will be the greatest day in DNVR Bar history.
Wow.
Holy
The Avs have a
smokes.
chance to clinch the number 1 seed overall with tomorrow, so it's going to be vibes could be very immaculate tomorrow. Next question, Eric.
Yes.
This one's for you, right in your
Oh,
wheelhouse.
smoke.
Will we hate the Warriors by the end of this? Both them, the team, the players, and their fans.
Okay, let me go in order. Yes.
No,
yes,
that's not true. That's not true.
Yes, we will hate the Warriors fans. They will come in with a smug energy that we smugits have never been able to conjure. We will be swallowed whole. The national media will give us absolutely no chance
That's true.
in this. There's going to be a lot of like, talk to me when you've been here, kid, kind of energy coming from them.
Totally.
Even though they just recently moved to San Francisco, Oakland, whatever. They're soulless now. And that's the biggest fan base currently.
Yeah, they really are by a lot.
So we're going to be overwhelmed. Like that Jon Snow against the Army of the Dead or whatever,
Yeah.
like that. Get ready, folks. Like, get
That's
ready.
what
Like,
it's gonna be.
yes, that's what it's going to be. I mean, I don't think that they will stoop to Portland levels. I don't think it'll become like Philly and
Yeah. Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. I want to rank. So the Nuggets have played 5 teams in the playoffs in the Jokic era. 5.
Yes.
I want you to rank them from fan bases / teams that you hate the most to least.
one being the one I hate the most.
Yes.
Well, let's go in reverse order then. Let's see. So
The easiest one. There's one team that I'm telling you, we played them. Never had a single bad.
Yeah, it's the
month.
Spurs.
There's
Yeah.
one team. It's the Spurs.
I
Of
couldn't
course
believe it.
it's-
Love
When
the
you played
Spurs fans.
It went 7.
Yeah.
And I was like,
just
wow.
smart, high IQ basketball.
Yeah, a lot of-
I didn't have
lot
a
of
single
handshakes.
So
interaction.
unselfish.
Yeah, they just know how to win.
They
You know,
had great chemistry.
yeah, they
Their
just
fan
know what
base.
it's about. They respect the game.
They're
Duncan-
so fundamental.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tim Duncan kept retweeting my takes.
They all drink red wine and they love
The
Jokic.
entire series, Popovich is like, Jokic is incredible.
Seriously, we're
wow,
like,
this is
great
great.
That was the perfect first series for this group of
It
guys.
really
Not only
was.
that, they threw it in Game 7.
Yeah, they gave it to us.
Popovich just goes, whatever.
Shout out the Spurs.
So, and I would have expected the Jazz fans to be more incensed. I thought, to me, they weren't what I
No,
expected.
You're
them
wrong.
to be.
You're wrong.
You're
You're
wrong.
missing
Number
blood.
2
Yeah.
is Clippers.
I agree.
Just because
I
there's
agree. There's
nobody.
not-
No, that was
There's
number
no
4.
Clippers.
That was number. I was going from least
Yeah.
hateable.
Yeah,
to
yeah.
the-
Spurs.
Oh, I see.
So then Clippers is 4 or Jazz.
Clippers are
Okay,
second
Clippers.
least
Because
hateable.
you have to also factor in team, and I kind of hate the Clippers, but it
They're
was
just
fun.
like
But
nothing.
But you're
They're
right.
like a moth. You just crush it and it's just dust.
Jeez, that's dark.
It's also mostly just like rich homie Flom being sad.
yeah, I know.
It's not like all
Yeah, it's
angry
our
based
guy,
trying to fight. It's
yeah.
like 10 people
Yeah,
we
you're
know
right.
and we
Clippers.
like them.
Yeah.
Out of
Then,
pity, I
then I
can't
guess it was
believe
the Jazz, and then it was the.
So then hold up. So Jazz you thought was bad. I thought Jazz. I was surprised. Jazz fans can be very annoying, but that
Yeah.
series.
That's
I
what I
don't
mean.
remember
That's why I tried to
You know
link
what I
even
think
lower.
it was? I think it was that the pandemic. We were at the right there.
Yeah,
at the
totally.
pandemic, and everybody
We were, like,
was just
thinking
like
about
taking
humanity.
It. Yeah, we were all just like, you know,
We're like, it's
let's
not so
hate
serious,
each other.
guys.
Yeah, it's just sports.
Like
a game.
our cities are on fire. Our
exactly.
our sports are
Everything was significantly
Yeah, we're like,
heavier than
yeah,
basketball
we're
at that
like,
moment.
Utah, we're not so different.
And then Jamal just taking the picture of Donovan, the video of him
Yeah,
eating salad like
exactly,
20
yeah.
minutes after.
That's
just
what
a
it was.
game.
Oh,
We would probably hate the Jazz right now if we had to
Hate
play
them.
them.
Number 2, obviously, the Suns.
Oh crap! I forgot the Suns.
How could you forget
Yeah.
the Suns? The Suns in 4?
Man.
Dude, that was horrible. There was an
Dude,
action
So
figure
here's
made.
what's funny is there was 3. Those 3 I'm like not that bad, and then there's 3 that I'm like, how could I pick between these 3 terrible fan bases and teams? You're right, Suns. They're the biggest upset ever that they're only 3.
I was thinking they were 2. Who's your third?
Well,
Who'd I forget?
Number 1 is always for me going to be the Lakers. Like it will
Oh.
forever be the Lakers.
Oh,
I can-
no.
Yeah, it is. The-
Well,
the-
I mean, yeah, but you're wrong. Dude, Portland, that Portland series was the most
Portland
acrimonious.
is number 2 because of
No.
how contentious it was.
That was the most hateful, acrimonious, like mudslinging nonsense I've ever been party to. I loved it. I hate it. I still think about it all the time. I think about Inez Cantor saying whatever it freaking takes. That photo
my
of him
God.
holding his arms like he was a corpse, like he'd been brought back from the dead.
Did he
Clearly
really?
had to
What
ask
is
somebody
serious,
else to
man.
take a photo of this. Like,
Yeah,
will
he's
you
like,
please
oh.
take a photo?
He's like, will you,
Wait, not
he's
yet.
like, would you please take a freaking photo?
Do you remember when Terry Stotts accused Yoke of being a dirty player?
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
because
my God.
he boxed out Inez Cantor, which, by the way, if you're hurt, don't play. Also, like the weird racism stuff that came out, like
Zach Collins
all
angle.
of these things, dude. That I will never come out of a playoff series like I came out of that one, where I was like it was over, and I was like, I don't know what happened. Like, I was like bloodied and
That was a
beaten.
classic series, too.
It was
The first
great.
one.
The first one.
Take
yeah.
a freaking
The
look.
4 overtime game.
Yeah.
We didn't win
And then you
that
play
one,
them
though.
again.
Oh,
Like, yeah,
God.
Blazers are up there. I'm just telling you, I can't hate. I have my. There's
Well, I
a
mean-
maximum amount of hatred I can allow myself, and the Lakers have that.
I understand, but I mean, like
The
nothing.
max slot.
Yeah,
max
so
cap
there's-
slot.
But
More.
that series wasn't as. I mean, it was just like a lot of like hate us because they hate us or whatever. But like Portland was like, we
Yeah.
know who you are, and here's a thing we're going to say that we know is going to hurt you.
I'll never forget though. Do you guys remember LeBron fouling Jamal on a drive, and then SportsCenter clipping it and being like, "Amazing block," and it's like it's a slow
Yeah.
motion of the foul, and you're like, "Why would you choose that of all highlights to highlight here?"
Yeah.
But it was
Like
because it was LeBron, so they had to like get it in there. I just can't. Suns, Blazers, Lakers. So are Warriors going to fit in the top category or the bottom category here?
Bottom.
They're going to
The
be mids.
bottom for sure, because there are two types of Warriors fans. One half of them you respect, one half of them you don't. Like, you respect the Warriors fans who have been there throughout the entire journey.
Sam and Andy are like
Yeah,
class. They're hilarious.
I mean, they know Jokic is incredible. Like,
Yeah.
like they know the Nuggets are injured. They're smart basketball people. You
Yeah.
know, they've watched the game. They've watched a beautiful game for the last 5-6 years. And then there's the other half of Warriors fans, which are just the tech bros who walk over from the Salesforce Tower into
Yeah.
Chase Center
Yeah.
and are like, "Oh yeah, the Warriors."
They're not on social media, though.
Dude, it's
so
somebody's
they're
gonna. It's
not.
some
that half of the fan base, yeah, no respect.
At
But
some point, somebody's going to buy an NFT for us that's an L and donate it to us. That's just going to happen from the tech bros.
That's going to be like the lamest way to talk shit. You're like, what? What is
we just
this?
got an L NFT.
I don't think that it'll be a particularly contentious series from the fan base either. I mean, that Warriors group, they have so little to win or gain or lose right now. It feels like to me.
They have a lot to gain if they win the title.
Well,
but
yeah,
not this
but like
specific
they've
series.
also already won some
Yeah.
titles. You know, like it just doesn't feel like.
Just give it to the Nuggets.
Yeah.
come on, you sound like
Spike
Philly
Eskin.
now.
Yeah.
Just
They've already
it's
got
been a
one.
tough
We don't
year.
have one.
We don't have one yet. We've never
Yeah.
even been.
Never really been. Get
Get out of here.
It shows that exact voice.
No, but I just don't know. It really
funny.
is. But I don't know if they're gonna find this like they even. It may be punching down.
Yeah,
It may be
yeah.
a little bit of punching down.
It's funny because the Warriors are sort of like the best of the others. You know what I mean? Like the Warriors are a Nuggets that rose and became dominant.
Yes.
And I feel like Toronto is the worst of the others. They like are the team that rose up and then immediately became the Lakers. Like their people are so annoying, man. They're so over the top. So it's a weird little dichotomy.
I don't
We
know
gotta keep
any
going.
Raptors fans.
But just to be clear, what I think will happen is I think that they think they're above even the fray.
They're above even just interacting.
Yeah, they're not going to be like
Nuggets.
they're not going to like dirty their.
I will
hands
say
like
there's one man who can change all of that.
E40.
He's not available for game one. Facu Campazzo 1,000% could enter the series and totally create some bad blood amongst players, amongst teams, amongst organizations, and amongst fan bases. You could barely mention his name to a Warriors fan right now. They hate that guy so much. All right, let's hit a break. On the other side, scouting report. Should have a list coming out tomorrow. Lots of clips already done, but I got my Battlegrounds. I'll go over those, hear what you guys have to say about them.
If you do come to the bar, game 1 tomorrow night, Saturday night, make sure to drink some Breck Brew seltzers while you're here. They're stocked in the fridge. I just saw them before I came up here.
Nice. You gonna drink one? Maybe?
Ready to go.
Hell yeah.
I'd recommend the peach flavor, but all the flavors are great. Breckenridge Brewery is the official beer of DNVR. And like I said, when you're in the bar, have some seltzers. If you're not local, if you're not stopping in, go to the Breck Brew beer locator on their website. It will tell you where to get seltzers and Breck Brew, no matter where you are. So you can enjoy a seltzer
Also,
during the game.
I'm told we'll have the lemonade seltzers
Ooh.
Here?
Nice.
Oh, in the buckets?
in the buckets, bro.
Oh, man.
Available for perch.
Also at Lightshade
Cheers.
Dispensary, you guys can pick up some Ripple right now. Ripple. Ripple is a fast-acting,
Yeah, it
dissolvable, clinically proven to hit 2 times faster than the leading gummy. So if the leading gummy isn't doing it for you,
I know.
Hit up some Ripple.
What is the leading gummy? Do we know?
I feel like everybody just knows, you know.
Yeah, we all.
Leading gummy.
We all. Yeah, we're like, is it a leading gummy kind of night? Like, I don't know.
You're at the dispensary. Excuse me, sir.
Can I get
is
the
this
leading gummy?
leading gummy? Yeah.
Hook me
Just
up
wanna
with the
make
leading
sure.
gummy.
This is the-
Ripple starts
DNVR.
absorbing within 10 minutes, so you can depend on a consistent experience every single time. You can find Ripple at Colorado's premier dispensary, Lightshade, with 11 convenient Denver Metro and Aurora locations. Also, the Barnum location is now open 1 block off of 6th and Federal. They've got 420 specials. Their 5 best-selling products will be buy one, get one for $1 from April 20th through 26th. And as always, DNVR Nuggets podcast listeners can get 25% off non-sale items with the code DNVR. Shop online at lightshade.com for pickup or visit a Lightshade location near you.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. We had a super chat come in.
Ooh.
You want to read that for us?
Says,
Go boy.
Here, I'll say it. What are your takes on this new Yoke slander tactic where people accuse him of being too humble? Such a weird thing to hold against someone.
Goat boy or two online. Like, this is one of those things, like, if you search the internet hard enough, you can find every take there is. So if people are slamming him for being too humble,
you
like,
can even find, like, the moon landing was fake. You can even find that.
You find that one actually very easily these days. But honestly, this is my thing is, like, I that's a dumb thing to say. Like, I don't have people I'm sure have that take just as a thing to hate him for.
I just love that you just called someone Goat Boy, like really
That was
serious.
his
That's his
name.
name.
No, I know. I just love that you had to
Goat
do
Boy.
that. Goat Boy, comma. You're too online.
You know, Goat Boy.
Yeah, I'm
Too
just,
online.
I'm not saying that as an insult. I'm just saying, like, it's one of those things where I hear and I'm like,
It also
what
might
am I
have
supposed
Yeah,
to
I
do
think
that?
that's a narrative that's not going to pick up a ton of steam.
probably has more to do with the way people in our seats talk about how humble he is than him actually being humble.
Right.
Which is like holding it as a supreme virtue.
Right.
As opposed to maybe like a preference thing. You know?
Right. Oh, of course. Yeah. For Yoke, it's definitely a preference thing. Like, yeah, whatever.
I think from what I've learned, it's a national thing. It's the national,
Serbians are very humble.
the
are they?
national Serbian
they?
approach to life is to be humble, not talking about yourself. Everyone has to talk about you on your behalf. It's whether it be it fake or
A whole
not.
country of just humble people.
Yeah, countries take on personalities. You can think of like an English person is quiet,
I
reserved.
have not found our friends in Serbia to be the most humble population. I might say proud.
They're all taking Nuggets in 4, so I don't know. Maybe. All right, let's get into the scouting report, guys, because I want to get into some of this analysis. As I've been going through, I'm just going to go. These are not in order of like most important to least important, but they're just things that I have down. We could talk about them. Strengths, obviously, for the Warriors. This is the number one. This one is in order. This is the number one strength to them, and the thing that gives me the most concern in this series. They move like no other team. Their player movement is nonstop. They play the style of basketball I wish the Denver Nuggets played. I've said this for years. If you look at their play style breakdown, according to Synergy, which is not perfect, but if you look at it, pick and roll, don't do it very much. Now, they do it a lot, but I'll explain in a different context. Isolation, don't do it very much. What they do is off of screens, off of cuts, and off of handoffs nonstop, because that's all they're doing is their guys are just like wide receivers that run routes, and they play such great read and react basketball. They have every type of cut in their arsenal.
the Serbians.
Nemanja
Chat's
is taking
agreeing
Nuggets
with
in
me.
3.
Well, I'm laughing. The Serbians also don't agree that they're humble.
They're like,
I'll tell you.
They have every type of cut in their book, and this is the thing: is it's not to guard them. It's not just about like, oh, you're gonna have to play hard to run around. It's not that. If it was just that, I would say, you know what, the Nuggets can do that. They've got some guys that have some spirit or whatever. It's that you have to both play incredibly hard while also reading the court so fast. You have to be so dialed in from an intelligence standpoint to guard them. And that's the part that more than anything else, they go from one action to another seamlessly. They can run a play, and when it doesn't work, it's not clear out, now let's run a pick and roll like every other team, including the Nuggets, do, or clear out and let's run ISO. It's this play didn't work. How do we evolve it into this other play that everybody just kind of seems that we go into? And it's so impressive. That's what they do. Most frequent screens, most frequent cuts. They're really good at this player movement.
What happened with the Warriors last year is they brought in a bunch of like lower IQ players who didn't know how to run the system. And this year they brought in higher IQ guys to run that system. And that's what it is. It's just really smart basketball players in constant movement.
And they got it. Like some of the guys that they had last year, like Poole, they're now a year further into this system, so they get it. They understand it a lot better. I mean, it does almost remind you of football where there's fewer games. Sometimes there's a new coach, new quarterback, and like that first year, 8-8, and you're like, well, it didn't work. It's like, hold on, let's see next year. Oh, 14 and 2. Like it took a year. The Warriors, I think, are like that. But you are right. Bielitsa, very smart player. Like they got guys that know exactly what to do.
Yeah.
So getting lost off ball to me, and just getting lost on, the two guys jumped out at one, and now there's a guy wide open. Like to me, that's my biggest fear. Number 2, it goes hand in hand with number 1. Elite 3-point shooting. I mean, we know this. Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, maybe number 1, number 2 shooters of all time. But did you know Jordan Poole, a sneaky he is easily the best third shooter I think a team has in terms of he's really good off the dribble. He's really good off the catch and shoot. He's really good running off like all these guys are. So you're going to have 3 guys that are constantly doing this where it's switch. And they're just going to have to be locked in because you leave a little bit of daylight for Jordan Poole. He knocks it down, let alone Steph Curry and Klay Thompson.
Who's the Nuggets' third best shooter?
Well, you have Murray Porter, and then you'd have Forbes.
Now.
And now Forbes is number 1.
Who might not play this series.
Bones and Barton. Monte? Probably Monte.
Austin Rivers.
Monte is the top 3. He might be number 1, honestly.
And they have Curry, Thompson, and Jordan Poole.
It's not comparable. And then Wiggins, by the way. Wiggins is shooting 39%. Then you've got Otto Porter and Bielitsa, who are guys, and Iguodala, who's not leave them open guys. They're just not priority guys. So they have elite 3-point shooting, and it's a double-edged sword. You go cold, teams, it's they can go cold together. But if they're hot, it just it gets ugly quick.
Yeah, and we heard from Austin Rivers, who talked about the importance of the defensive communication and how it's just going to be, need to be at an all-time high, and it hasn't been down the stretch of the season. So, I mean, look, you look at this and 2 things jump out at you right away in this matchup, right? From the Denver perspective, you're like, sweet, Jokic, who guards him? But the other side of this, you see right away, their strengths are Denver's weaknesses. Yeah. And it's tough.
It's kind of both sides.
Yeah, both sides. We'll get to that here in a second. The other thing here, skill players at all 5 positions, including Kevon Looney, who's not going to play that many minutes, I don't think, in the series, but he is I always talk about the difference between the Utah Jazz and the Phoenix Suns when you talk about the Nuggets is Rudy Gobert. The Nuggets eventually just said, you know what? He's the guy that we're going to make, not score. We're going to make him catch the ball at the foul line, and then we're just going to see if he knows how to read the court properly, and he didn't. That cut them from scoring 130 points a game to down to 100 points. And Denver obviously came back and won that series. DeAndre Ayton, while he's not Jokic, he's good enough that if you leave him open, he shoots it, or if you switch, that he just backs you down, and he knows, or passes to the corner, makes the read. Kevon Looney can do that same thing. And by the way, Draymond's going to play a lot of that spot anyway as the center. They just have guys that there's no leave him open or force him left. Otto Porter, Iguodala, Bielitsa, these guys all know how to dribble, pass, shoot, and chew gum. And so there's no simple fix to the Warriors.
Yeah. I think that's a good point by Robert in the comment there, because as soon as the Nuggets miss a shot, Golden State's going to get the ball and they're going to run.
Yeah.
And the Nuggets transition defense has been
not very good.
A joke.
Yeah.
It's been a joke. They've got to get back.
So that's to my last one here. Converting turnovers into points is their big thing. They're not their pace is actually kind of slow overall. I think a lot of that is they defensively make teams use up the whole shot clock because they just don't break down. But a lot of this is when they do run, they convert. 6th in points off of turnovers. 16% of their offense comes off of turnovers, which is insane to think about. 7th in fast break points. So it's not that they run and gun all the time. It's just that if you trip up, they capitalize every time.
Yep.
So Denver can't trip up. Where are they weak? Drawing fouls. They are 29th in player foul draw.
This is great news.
That is good. You would hope that means your key players are going to be able to be on the court, which is huge. And they're 23rd in free throw attempts. So they score on you outright, but they don't necessarily get to the line a whole lot.
This isn't a series where Jokic should be in foul trouble at all. Right?
Yeah, it shouldn't be.
He should not be in foul trouble.
He's never in foul trouble.
Yeah. You guys
everyone just knocked on
the
one.
basketball guys.
He's never in foul trouble.
It's a good point. They have the 2nd worst turnover percentage in the NBA. This is a big thing about them. And as I'm getting through the film, a lot of this is they are empowered to take bad shots.
Yes.
And they are empowered to try to split the defense, reject screens, do all this stuff that it's like feast or famine. If you reject a screen and it works, you're almost certainly scoring. If you get around your guy, if you reject a screen that doesn't work, you're probably trapped, and now the possession gets a little bit worse. But they're just all empowered to do that. If the Nuggets played the way they did, Barton would take so many more threes. Bones Highland would probably play a lot more minutes and a lot more threes. They play a little bit of chaotic style, but when it's at its worst, and here's what I'll say: they're comfortable in flow. but they're uncomfortable if you are able to disrupt that flow. And that's where the turnover, just like Denver is, by the way. I feel like Denver, their turnovers come when it gets clunky. The Warriors are the exact same. It gets clunky and they start doing dumb stuff. So that's a big battleground.
And I think we saw that happen a little in the Nuggets' couple wins over the Warriors this season. Like, and I know you can't take too much from that because Draymond Green didn't play.
Right.
And Klay Thompson didn't, I think, in one of those. But you saw when the Nuggets defense really dug in and forced the Warriors into turnovers, like they can panic a little and get off their game for sure.
Yeah. Steph being questionable is huge. I mean, I know we all expect he's going to play, but how well will he play? He had some high-profile return from injury playoff games, and he's had some low-profile, like really bad return from injuries where it kind of sunk them. What are you going to get, and how can you – I think it's so important for Denver to not let Steph get going in Game 1. Almost at the expense – like if you lost Game 1 but Steph plays terrible, it's almost like a mini-win. It's not as bad as if you lost and Steph goes for 40 and he hits 10 threes, and you're like, yeah, now their confidence is sky high. So him being a little bit down – you look for how do you plant things in their mind that, hey, maybe that makes them a little tight. Steph struggling is one of them. And then obviously the big one, their offensive weakness, center depth. Draymond, if he doesn't work, what is their plan? It's the biggest battleground to me. If he can't play center, if it's just like, hey, that's not on the table, their best punch is him at center. If you take away their best punch, do they have other good punches? Yes, but you take away their best one, and it changes the series, I think, in a very meaningful way. All right. And then also just fouls. Like, fouls will slow down the game. To stop Jokic, they might have to foul because they might just be, like, constantly behind. And if you do that, it allows Jokic to play more minutes because now the game is so slowed down and such a half-court game. And they're also just, like, now having to reach deeper into, is Kuminga going to have to guard Jokic for minutes? They know it doesn't work, but just to buy a couple minutes.
Look, the last time the Nuggets played the Spurs late in the regular season and Jokic put Jakob Poeltl in foul trouble in the first minute of the game. Yeah. The first two possessions, they just got the ball to Jokic in the post. Boom, one foul, another foul. First two possessions. That, like, totally changed the dynamic of that game. Like, the Nuggets lost that game, but Poeltl had to sub out and, they had to, like, change their game plan. If you're able to do that against the Warriors and get Kevon Looney into foul trouble immediately in the first quarter, force Draymond to play Jokic for, like, the entire game, that can totally change the dynamic of things.
Or gets Draymond in foul trouble if they decide to go that route. I think this is a huge one, particularly because this is the first playoffs Jokic is entering where he's drawing fouls at the rate that he is. I think it's at a different level right now. And I think refs are willing to call it. And he's reached that level as a scorer where sometimes it's your best option is to just hack him. Yeah. So I really think there's a chance that him putting other teams into foul trouble could be a bigger deal this postseason than it has.
Definitely. The way we saw Jokic playing down the stretch where it seemed like he actually really wanted to get the MVP award and he was really going out and putting on like a more individual performance than we normally get from him, where he was just going down the lane, dribbling behind his back, just being like, I'm scoring. Yeah, I'm going to score. Totally. And it makes me feel very encouraged for the matchup that he's about to see, where he has shown us in very recent history he's got that in him, and like if he can just like really harness that and just go sicko mode, like I don't know, man.
Sicko mode.
I don't know, man. I've got good feelings.
I mean, now we're over to the Nuggets side, and obviously offensive strength, we're already into it, but it's Jokic, and he just has to dominate this matchup. And I mean, it really is the Nuggets' strength is Jokic. It's like if you said what are they good at? They're good at having Jokic and everything he does.
They're not good at getting the ball to him, but they're good at having him.
True.
Give it to him at the top.
Well, so here's the thing about the Jokic Draymond, and I'm going to have a lot of film on this. I went back and watched even from last year every possession, and I'll put these in like a compilation. Jokic took a lot of jumpers against Draymond when he was guarding him. And I think part of the reason, and Kevon Looney's not very tall, by the way. He's kind of undersized. Draymond's obviously super undersized. I think Jokic feels like, hey, it's like, hand down, man down, only if the hands up, it just doesn't matter. He's too tall. So he feels very comfortable taking that face-up jumper. Posting up Draymond, I was surprised at how much Jokic struggled with it. It was a little bit feast or famine. And then here's the most interesting one. Jokic has become so dynamic this year because of his face-up game and catching on the move and attacking. Draymond is really, really clearly keyed in on this because even last year when they matched up, he was doing everything he could to attack his face. Not because he was worried about his three-point shot, because he didn't want him to put the ball on the ground. So to me, Jokic has been so successful at that, catch on the move, one dribble spin, whatever. And Draymond is very good at meeting him as soon as he catches the ball chest to chest. So if
Yeah.
you do put it down, Draymond gets a hand in there, and it takes that aspect of his game away. So I actually think, while I think Yoke can, and I probably would say will dominate that matchup one-on-one, Draymond's going to make him work as hard as just about anybody not named DeAndre Ayton, maybe Rudy Gobert. You know, he's going to present a very unique challenge for Jokic.
I haven't been this excited for just a one-on-one matchup in any previous Nuggets playoff series
Yeah.
than I am for Draymond Green versus Nikola Jokic. I mean, it's the best offensive player in the league versus who I think is the best defensive player in the league.
I agree he's the best defenseman, and I
Yeah.
actually think again, Jokic is so much bigger than him, but he does present very unique challenges to Jokic. Like, I don't want to say he's the toughest matchup for Jokic. He's the toughest matchup in very specific areas for Jokic.
It's
not all
maybe the two highest IQ players in the league.
Yeah.
Like two guys who just understand the game at such a level that nobody can even approach. And so, Draymond has Jokic scouted better than anybody they've played against has.
Yeah.
He knows everything that Jokic likes to do, his tendencies, how he likes to catch the ball on the move. So he's going to be ready. I just can't wait to see those two square off. I can't wait.
And a week plus to watch film, too.
Oh,
A guy like Draymond feasts during this time.
But the one thing I'll say about Jokic is he also feasts during the, do we figure each other out? And I'm kind of curious about the fact that they didn't play each other. And I'm also curious, just the longer this goes, who figures out who a little bit more in that regard. Now, here's the other thing. My number 2 on this list, Aaron Gordon and Jeff Green are another offensive strength here. Why? Because Aaron Gordon is just way too big for Andrew Wiggins, and Jeff Green is way too big for Klay Thompson or whoever else they're going to throw out there as a 4. So, and again, in the regular starting lineup, no, but Golden State plays a lot of minutes when they put Draymond at 5 and they try to play small. Denver is huge at the 3 and 4 with those two guys, and they have to take advantage of it. I think Aaron Gordon is my X factor for the series, and it's because when I went back and watched the tape, when Draymond guarded Jokic, they would attack in very specific ways, but one of their favorite ways to attack was to go to Aaron Gordon, because if Draymond's guarding Jokic, well, he's your help side defender. Andrew Wiggins, all of a sudden, now your rim protector inside, and they would go to him in the post a lot. And Aaron Gordon did what he always does, which is mixed up incredibly aggressive drives to the basket with step-back threes that Andrew Wiggins would be like, sure, man, whatever. This series, Aaron Gordon has to be locked in, and he has to punish it. Jokic can break their small ball lineup, but Aaron Gordon is right barely below him in terms of guys that can break their small ball lineup. And I think Denver's game plan, in large part, is going to be to go to Aaron Gordon in those moments.
Yeah. How we talk about Aaron Gordon is so funny because when he has a good game, it's, he attacked the basket. He used his size,
So
his
simple.
muscle.
Yeah.
He put guys under the rim. He was great. When he has a bad game, he floats on the perimeter.
Yeah.
He takes bad shots. He takes
I think he knows that,
off balance threes. Of course he knows it because after every great game he has where he attacks the rim, he goes, I just got to keep doing that. That's my strength. That's my game. But he does get away from it at times, and I agree. He's going to be the safety valve. He's going to be the guy who has the ball wind up in his hands wide open.
And I think Jeff Green goes right here in that if you think about how does Denver close, if they close with Jordan Poole, Klay, and Steph all in the court together with Wiggins, or maybe it's not even Wiggins, maybe they go with an Otto Porter or something and then Draymond big. If they go to a lineup like that, is it Austin Rivers or Jeff Green? It's probably Austin Rivers. But in the moments that Jeff Green is out there, he is going to have an enormous size advantage that he doesn't always take advantage of. They need him to be like, it's Jordan Poole switched on to me. I know exactly. I'm going to the basket here. I'm going to rebound this and dunk it on his head. He's too little. So Denver, Jeff Green and Aaron Gordon just have such a big role here in that they're going to have a big physical advantage, and they have to use it. Pace of play. Jokic can control the pace of play as well as anybody other than maybe Luka, and some maybe even including Luka. The Warriors, to your point, like to get out and run. Jokic can disrupt. The Nuggets have to take away the Warriors' flow, and you have to do that by not turning it over and by defending. But the third way you do that is by just playing slow. And Jokic, I think, can be a guy that's like, you know what? I don't know if I can stop them or we can score this or that, but I'm going to waste 20 seconds every time down. They have to do it.
I heard it too.
I don't know how to break the wall with that one, but that was weird.
Another one, unpredictability factor of Jamal. Jamal could be a chaos grenade that you drop into this at some point in the
Chaos
series.
grenade.
It just is. Where
As
they
opposed to an order grenade.
No, that was sick.
Let there
though.
be order.
Chaos grenade.
A glitter grenade.
Well, all of a sudden, it's like they're looking at their scouting report, and they're like, I don't know what to do. He comes out and hits a couple threes, and they're like, okay, so now we play him like he's Jamal, or what do we play him like? I mean, it just, when you're the underdog, variance is your friend. and Jamal represents an enormous variance in both directions. So that's one. Rebounding, I'm not sure if this is an actual advantage, but Denver just has to make it an advantage.
They do.
They
I
have
mean, the
to.
Warriors are just small. They are.
I'll tell you what, there's another thing that stood out to me. When Draymond guards Jokic, he is so dialed in on rebounding. Jokic has a hard time rebounding against Draymond because of how much he's just like, it's his top priority is just.
And he's so
Jokic.
strong too. He's one of the only players who can like match Jokic's strength for strength.
But he's also quick. Like rebounding is not just like can you keep him out. It's that he's just like
Positioning,
moves. Yeah,
yeah.
his position. He's like, I mean, he really is like a wrestler. He's like wrestling Jokic, man. Like I'm telling you, Draymond's a very impressive defender. All right, weaknesses.
That's an understatement of the year.
Weaknesses for Denver on offense. Reading complexity is not one of Denver. Like they're going to be a very complex defense. I thought Denver by accident stumbled into some great double cuts off of Jokic in the post. I hope they continue to go to him. But if not, like Denver has to be dialed in on when to cut off of Jokic, or else they're going to double and make life hell for Denver, which we've seen. Guard depth. Monte, Barton, and Rivers are all blocks to play a lot of minutes in this series. I think Bones is very likely to play a lot, but not quite a lock just because he's a rookie, and we'll see what happens. That's 4 guys. They're going to play 3 guards a lot, and Denver's going to have to match them a lot. So you're already talking about having to have extra guards on the court. And then behind that, you've got Forbes, Facu, Marcus. One of those guys has to play in the series. Almost certainly is going to have to play. Just because you don't have Davon Reed, and you're probably going to have a 5th guy for when you're playing all these heavy minutes with these guys. To me, that's a huge weakness for Denver. One of those guys probably is going to have to play.
Marcus went off last year.
Stop.
He did why? I'm not stopping.
Michael Malone at practice the other day was talking about Facu's suspension and goes, Facu is a guy who we know we can throw into any series and trust.
I think they're going to have to play him.
I would just keep that tucked away in the
honestly
back
think
of your head.
Facu has an impact on the series. Not sure if that's a positive or a negative one. Turnovers, Denver's 26, so went 29th and 26th. Both these teams turned over. And then lastly, when I went through the film, they went deep under handoffs with Austin Rivers. They could set the screens the foul line and they would go under. Now, Austin Rivers can get hot and can knock these down. But when teams are like, yeah, we want that guy to shoot, it's tough. And I suspect early on in the series, they're going to be like, yeah, Austin, shoot. Or first 5 seconds of a possession, yeah, we want you to take a quick shot here.
Yeah.
Let it. If you miss, we're going to run on this one and get a fast break. So go ahead. No pressure.
Even if he does decide to just swing the ball, even that can take him 6 to 8 seconds sometimes of dancing and dribbling. And
they're going to go deep under on him. I think they're going to go under on Barton, mix in when they go under. And, like, if those guys miss, it just is such a killer for Denver. And those guys are going to have to make open shots early in the series under pressure. So.
Austin Rivers is one of my big X factors.
He's huge. He's a huge X factor.
Because I think he's going to play 30-plus minutes a game in this series. I think
But he's going to be a defense. We've seen him play great defense and have, like, 2 points because he's too tired. Like, it's like they got to run around, chase Steph. I'm going to take offense off, rightfully so.
I think he's going to play, like I said, maybe 30-plus minutes a game. I think he could be starting by game 3 if things go really bad in games 1 and 2. And he's got to bring it defensively. I think the Nuggets know he's their best matchup on Steph. Like, they just have to know that by now. He defended him out well at times this season. I think Malone knows he has to put Rivers on Curry. And then offensively, he's just got to make the game simple, shoot the shot when he's open, attack the rim when they close out on him, and just limit his mistakes. But he's a massive factor in the series.
And be decisive, right? It's all... In some of these scenarios, it's going to be less what he decides to do for me and more how quickly does he do it, right? And just keeping that flow to the offense.
It's so wild how reliant on Austin Rivers we've become in the middle of our championship window.
It is pretty fun. But you know what? Honestly,
pivot.
he's a playoff player, so I'm expecting some big stuff
Austin
from
Rivers
him.
game, baby.
Austin Rivers game. Tomorrow, DNVR Bar. You're going to want to get here early. We're going to be here. It's going to be a great time. There's going to be so much going on. It's going to be absolute chaos. Be prepared for chaos, but in a good way. And we're going to have a great time together cheering on that game. And then also, just a little nugget for you. We got bets coming up, and then right after that, I'm back on the Denver Sports Podcast. I haven't been on for like 1 year. I'm back. I'm hosting it. It's going to be with my guy RK and Zach By from 104.3 The Fan, talking Nuggets, and we're going to be talking about Jokic and his chances of being, or maybe he already is, on the Mount Rushmore of Denver athletes, as well as a whole host of other things like, is Denver a good sports city? I can't wait to talk about all these things. We'll be back in a half hour for that one. See you guys.